Now that's a trailer. That is the only thing I knew about Alien going into the movie theater in 1979 was seeing that trailer. Good morning, everybody. I'm Graham Nolan, your horrible host for 31 Days of Monsters. And today we're going to be talking about a true science fiction game changer, 1979's Alien. Up until 1979, the only financially successful science fiction films were 2001, Planet of the Apes, and Star Wars. And they were moderately successful. You know, the studios didn't put a lot of backing behind science fiction until Star Wars. Well, actually, till Empire Strikes Back, because the first Star Wars was such a huge hit and surprised everybody. But unlike those two, I mean, Star Wars is really science fantasy. It's space fantasy. It's not science fiction. 2001 is a very sterile view, and quite honestly, I can't stand that movie. I've never been able to watch the whole thing. But Ridley Scott comes along and produces this movie, Alien, about truckers in space, so to speak, where things are dirty, things are real. You get the idea of what it'd be like for humans in the future being in space. And they came up with this alien creature unlike anything else that had ever been seen before. It's completely alien. They used H.R. Geiger's designs. He did a painting called Necronomicon that they had seen, and the alien is pretty much right there in that. It had eyes, and but they took the eyes out eventually when they made the costume here. This is a guy in a costume, but you'd never know it the way it was filmed. In fact, I want to show you something really cool. There was an artist that they found in a coffee shop named Bolaji Badajo. Badajo, I think I'm spelling that right. He was almost 7 feet tall and very, very thin. And they thought that he had the perfect physique for the costume to make it look like it's not a human being in there. And then you add the giant head to it. And this is some test footage of him in the costume. Oh, well, at least with the headgear on. And even just with the headgear, he looks so alien. Just going to show a little bit of this. It's 5 minutes long, so I don't want to get striked, but we'll show a little bit so you can just get a glimpse and feel of what it looks like. Look at how thin his limbs are. And then you add that big headpiece to him. Now you can see in the headpiece here, he has the eyes. But Geiger wanted the eyes removed. He wanted a creature with no personality on its face. He wanted a creature that hunts by smell. Creepy, right? I think that's really, really cool. Ridley Scott is a talented artist and a consummate storyteller. And he did all the storyboards for this entire movie. Here's an example of some of his storyboards. Here's the chest burster scene. He was a huge fan of heavy metal, and in particular Mobius. And when you look at the uniforms, the costumes, the spacesuits, all that kind of stuff, the design of the ship, the interiors of the ship, very, very much influenced by Mobius. Ron Cobb did a lot of the designs for the Nostromo. Um, he's a famed production designer. Started off as a cartoonist, doing like political cartoons out in California. But he was also known for doing these science fiction paintings. And I think it was Dan O'Banion, the screenwriter, who came across him. So they used him here. Oh, this isn't him. This is that looks like a panel right out of Heavy Metal, doesn't it? So great. Yeah, if you can picture yourself in 1979 having watched that trailer for some other movie or maybe seen it on TV and going to this movie, uh, and you it's like you're gobsmacked because you don't know what to expect. I mean, I went into this movie in 1979 thinking, "Ooh, I like monsters, I like sci-fi, I like aliens. This will be fun." And then you get a sense of the scope of it, just like Star Wars opened up the sense of size of the universe and of things like the Death Star and stuff. The money shot here is when they discover the spaceship on the asteroid and they go exploring in there. And John Hurt gets lowered down into like I guess you'd say uh, embryo factory or the egg nest or whatever it is. And you see just how big this area is, how small he is, and how the scale of that. And then also the pilot of the ship, those I forget what they ended up calling them, not the space explorers. One of you guys in the chat remind me what they call that guy sitting up in the seat. I was surprised at how much information they give you in this film about that they explore later on in other alien films. Like when they come across the pilot and they comment that it looks like that he was burst, like his bones burst out from the inside. And then in Prometheus, we see some of that and we get to see, they're not the creators. I forget what the heck their name is. Let me scroll down. Space Jockey. Thank you, Pedro. The Space Jockey. And Thrym too. Yeah, thanks, guys. So they give you all this little information that they could explore later on, and they didn't for a while. They just kind of continued on. Aliens with Sigourney Weaver returning, which is a great sequel, by the way. It's just a different kind of movie. It's more like a war picture in space, and I love that one. But it doesn't hold up as well as this one does. There's certain Cameronisms, if you will, that tend to date his movies. I don't know if it's dialogue or personality or what, but there's certain things that tend to date his movies. This movie, to me, with the exception of the computers, is timeless. It cracks me up. They've got these, they can do hyperspace. They can put people in cryogenic sleep and all that for years. And yet they have computers that start up going tick, 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 tick. It sounds like you're logging into AOL, So technology back in the day, will always give it away. Buttons everywhere, no touchscreens, but it's really irrelevant. Who likes Jonesy the cat? That cat's a pain in the ass, isn't he? Up until the very end, he jumps out and gives the audience fake scares all the time. He gets people killed. I think that cat should have been fed to that to the xenomorph. What do you guys think about that? The other thing that jumped out at me was how is Ripley's underwear comfortable? It looks like it was supposed to be on somebody half her size. It doesn't cover anything. I remember seeing that when it first came out. I'm like, how could you wear that all day long? But maybe that's just me. This movie owes a lot to It, the Terror from Beyond Space. It was a 1958, I think, 58 sci-fi movie, which I've talked about before. I think I might have done the video last year. If I didn't, I know I've posted it when we were just doing this as a Facebook thing. With Ray Corrigan as the creature. It's the premise is the same. A spaceship goes to another planet. The situations are different of why they go to that planet. They're bringing back a guy who they think has murdered his crewmates, and he says that they were murdered by some creature, and they don't believe him. So they're bringing him back for trial and execution, basically. And the creature stows aboard on the ship, and then hunts them. And there's a sequence in there in the air ducts, which Ridley Scott completely uses here in Aliens when Dallas goes into the air ducts, and he meets his end eventually. But that sequence is lifted right out of It, the Terror from Beyond Space, which is a really good 50s B movie. And that's what this was supposed to be. They thought it was going to be a B movie, and in fact, they almost signed a contract with Roger Corman to produce this film. And they ran into somebody who had a connection. I can't remember. I watched this on this is special features on the director's cut yesterday. But it ended up at 20th Century Fox. It ended up in the hands of Walter Hill, is what it was. Walter Hill was known for basically kind of tough guy movies, not sci-fi whatsoever. And it eventually left his hands because he admitted, he didn't know anything about sci-fi. But Ridley Scott got brought in. The storyboards alone bumped the budget from 4 point something million to 8 point something million. It doubled the budget because they realized that this was not going to be just a B movie. It was going to be something more. And boy, was it ever. How many of you guys saw this in the theater and were shocked? Well, when they showed this for the first time, there was lines around the block to get into this film. And they talk about how one of the ushers fainted. And it wasn't the chestburster scene. It was one of the other unique scenes. And this sequence was brought in by Walter Hill's people. And that was that the robot. That up until this time, you didn't know that this character was a robot until, he starts bleeding the milk. And when Yaphet Kotto smashes him with I think it's a fire extinguisher or something like that, and knocks his head off, and you see all the wires and the milk spitting out, or whatever that fluid's supposed to be. That was just too much for that usher to handle. But everything has a beginning, and this movie is groundbreaking. There's no two ways about it. It's definitely an A-list science fiction film that is a must-see for anybody if you haven't. So, good morning, everybody. Devil Flyer is here. JP Roca asks, what's good? Alien is good. Prater 7, good morning. Thrim, hi Comicsgate, hi chat. Hail Graham, thank you, sir. Dr. Mask's Retro Elixir is here. North Free, Revan Saber, Prater 7. Delaware Comics Dude says, morning Comicsgate, good morning. North Free comments that no woman kicks ass like Sigourney Weaver. She's tough. She's tough. Oh, I don't know if you guys have seen the director's cut, but I highly recommend it. There's some sequences in here. Originally, this movie ran over 3 hours, and they had to cut it down. And I've seen some of the scenes that didn't even make it into the director's cut, which is fine. They didn't really they slowed the film down, which is usually the case. But they did restore a few scenes here that were integral, I thought, that should have been into the original um, theatrical release, but were cut for various reasons. Uh, and one of them was a sequence where the Veronica, is it Veronica Cartwright? I always get those two mixed up, and I messed it up on the Invasion of the Body Snatchers one. Let's see. Veronica. It is Veronica. Okay, Veronica Cartwright comes across Sigourney Weaver after Ripley, refused to let them back in because of decontamination protocols. And she slaps her on the face. I mean, she winds up and slaps her. And she really did whack her. Because every time they tried to film that scene, Sigourney Weaver was anticipating it and pulling back, and it wasn't working. So Ridley Scott pulled her aside and said, let her have it this time. So she marches in there and just hauls back and whacks her. So Sigourney Weaver's reaction and the reaction of the other cast members as she gets hit is genuine. The other scene, which made it into the film, is as Ripley is getting ready to exit the ship and get into the lifeboat. She comes across Dallas and Brett, and they are still alive, and they've been, they're stuck up against the wall in all that alien goop, like you eventually did get to see in Aliens, the James Cameron film. But they did do that in this movie, and he begs her to kill him, and so she's got her flamethrower and torches him up, which is what Ripley does in Aliens. But that scene having been cut, I guess James Cameron wanted to show it something similar, so he used it. Had it been in this movie, they probably wouldn't have used it because it would have been too derivative. But I thought that was really cool to see, that even back then they were thinking that this is what these aliens did, that they would harvest people and use them to incubate the xenomorphs inside them. And eventually, as we know, they burst out, and this is how they reproduce. Okay, so our good mornings, back to it. Dr. Mass says, I thought strong women only existed in movies after 2016. Huh. Hey, watch any Barbara Stanwyck movie from the 1930s. You want to talk about an ass kicker? I love Barbara Stanwyck. She was badass. Prater 7 says, sometime in the early to mid 2000s, I discovered that I'd never actually watched this entire movie. So I watched it. The early scenes of the planet and ancient spaceship blew my mind. Yeah, those are the money shots I was talking about, where the sense of scope and size, because then the movie becomes very claustrophobic, which I think is what makes it so great, is, being trapped in a contained space with this creature you can't kill. The idea for the acid blood came from Ron Cobb, one of the designers, when O'Banion was talking to him about, he'd run into a wall in the story. It's like, well, we've got this creature, and the question arises, well, why don't we just shoot it and kill it, or do something like that? Well, he has to be unkillable in a conventional sense, because otherwise that's a huge plot point. And Cobb said, what if he had acid blood? And that was genius. Again, something you've never heard of or never seen before. Yeah. Bleeds acid. Genius. Yeah. Genius because it was story driven. Fearless Freak made it. Good morning. JP Roca wants to know, how horrible am I? Oh, I am horrible. Be afraid. Be very afraid. That and In Space, No One Can Hear You Scream. Two of the greatest sci-fi taglines ever. And we have them back to back on our show. Seeing the sheer scope of the planet and old ship were awesome. Seeing that ancient alien ship pilot was like opening a whole new world. You know what makes that great too is that it's a million questions. It's like they've built this thing, that going into it, that this is a movie and that they've built this gigantic set piece and everything. And now you want to know, what is that thing? What's the backstory there? Who were these guys, and how did they? What are these eggs doing there? There's a million different questions that don't get answered in this movie, but add to the texture and the layering of the storytelling, and basically leaving you breadcrumbs to make your own assumptions, or for them to explore later on in other films, which they did. Ridley Scott said the three biggest inspirations for this movie are, unsurprisingly, Star Wars, 2001. And this is the surprise, but once you hear it, you're going to say, yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for the sheer envelopment, complete embracing of the horror aspect. Because this is more than a sci-fi film. This is a horror film. And he wanted to capture that, like from Texas, like it does in Texas Chainsaw. So knowing those three, now you can see it. Rick Saylor is here. Good morning. Inspired many a movie since, good and bad. Yep. That's what originals do. Orlando Herrera says good morning. Hello, Orlando. Nerd and a noob. Alien is my favorite movie. Fun fact, acid blood to the adult xenomorph wasn't added until Aliens, as the original alien wasn't meant to be killable. Acid blood to the adult xenomorph wasn't added till Aliens. No, they use it in the first one, Alien. But yes, he wasn't meant to be killable in a conventional way, as I mentioned, because they had to have a reason why they couldn't shoot it. Some folks talking about Prometheus and the follow-ups that Ridley Scott did. Yeah, I felt that they got more confusing. Prometheus, I just watched that one recently because I want to like it, but it doesn't. Again, it throws more questions on things. It doesn't really answer anything. Yeah, I'd like some closure there. And the thing about that movie cracks me up is our hero. Can't remember this. Can't remember the French actress's name. Anyway, she knows she's got this creature growing inside of her, and she goes into that medical pod and has a C-section, and has it released and all that kind of stuff. Then the pod stitches her up. Now, my wife had 3 C-sections, and that's an invasive piece of surgery because you're cutting through layers of tissue and muscle and all that, and that takes a long time to heal. And they tell you you're not even allowed to vacuum, and she's jumping all over the place and pulling herself up and running around and everything. It's like, yeah, I don't think so. If you stress my incredulity too far, then I'm like, okay, come on. Certain things I'm ready to buy into, but some stuff, that we can completely relate to, and you don't make it a reason for it, then I'm like, come on, what do we got here? Dr. Mask isn't really a fan of gore, but I make an exception for the Alien movies and The Thing. There's not a lot of gore in this movie. In fact, there was a lot of gore, but they removed it because they were afraid of getting like an X mark. Of course, The Thing has a lot of gore, and The Fly that we talked about yesterday has a lot of gore. This one, not so much. It's very quick and I take that back. I'm forgetting the chest burster scene. That's pretty gory. But yeah, I'm with you, Dr. Mask. I don't like gore. I like to be frightened and I like thrills, but I don't want to be grossed out. uh, Devil Flyer says couldn't get over how roomy the ship was on it. It the Terror from Beyond Space. That's the least of the things you should be worried about. It's actually, it doesn't seem that roomy. In fact, it's basically a cigar tube, but there's all these different layers, or levels that they have to climb up and down. The funny thing about that movie is that they decided to bring bazookas, and everybody had a 45 sidearm. In the vacuum of space. What are you going to do with a bazooka? And a bullet, and they're shooting these things in the confines of a spaceship. And the other thing is, you've got this oxygen atmosphere, and they're smoking. Everybody's smoking. It cracks me up, but I love it. It's just part of the dating of the era. That some of these movies are made, and some of that stuff I love. Thrim says Scott is a master with cinematography, especially when the suspense hits and the camera pulls away, then a wide exterior shot. Well, Orlando saw this recently at an Alamo Draft House. Oh, that's cool. Alien and beer. That's a good pairing. Pedro Wang says, good morning. Good morning, sir. Pedro says, at 6'4", 220 pounds in Latin America, they call me engineer. I'm sure they also call you Mr. Ang at that size. JP Roca comments on Veronica Cartwright, Scream Queen, Body Snatchers, Alien, Birds, just to name a few. She is a great crier and whiner. In this movie, I'm not even going to do the impression, but she's really good at that stuff. Really good. Prater likes Prometheus. Explained a few things that were 30 years old and hadn't really been touched on since. Right? That cat. The scene where the cat hisses, the way they got the cat to do that, because it was walking forward, then it stops and it goes. They had a German Shepherd on the backside of a screen that the cat couldn't see, and then when the cat got to its mark, they lifted up the thing, and the German Shepherd was there, and then the cat goes. It's brilliant. Love how this movie was like Jaws because of faulty or bad-looking creature suit. Film less of it makes it scarier. Oh, I agree. I agree, and it's funny. The script reader, uh, all these guys, all these producers, directors have script readers who read the stuff to give them the synopsis of it. That and if they like the synopsis, then they read it. And the script reader described this as it's like Jaws in space. That's a good log line. Jaws in space. That'd make me want to read it. I was so tense watching Aliens that I had to calm down by watching A Bridge Too Far. Yeah, two war movies, Aliens and A Bridge Too Far. Uh, that sequence in events, even in 1979, bugged the hell out of me because, they had the Veronica Cartwright is looking at the gauge and there's a beep. And she's just freaking out saying, get out of there, get out of there. He's coming towards you. Why doesn't she just say, look to your right? He's coming to your right, and then have him turn and go with the flamethrower. She just starts freaking out and he starts freaking out. It could have been the end of the movie there. Not that we wanted the end of the movie there, but again, I don't like when characters behave stupidly in movies. And it's like in any horror movie, somebody walks into a house and they don't turn the lights on. They walk all the way across to the kitchen or whatever. They don't turn the lights on in the foyer or the living room. Who does that? Who walks into a dark house and walks across their house? Nobody. I guess I'm older than my audience here. I'm getting to the part here where folks are saying, sorry, not old enough, not quite. I wish I was old enough to see it in the theaters. Not I was 5. I wasn't born at that time. Oh, my Lord. Todd Haberscheid says, good morning. This was the best movie ever done by Ridley Scott. And the best part of this movie was the air duct with Dallas. I just ragged on that, dude. It was my favorite part of the whole thing, and I just love Jones the cat. In a way, it was the star of the movie. And the other thing about this movie, they didn't tell you anything about it until you saw it. Awesome. Well, Todd, I just shot down all the things you liked about this movie. The air duct scene and that damn cat. Did the company want to weaponize the eggs? Your thoughts? Yeah, I think so. They kind of make that clear in Aliens, for sure. What I don't understand is how did the company know what was on that planet? They got the signals, um, and then they woke everybody up in the Nostromo to check it out, knowing that there was something there they wanted to bring back. What I always wanted to know is how did they know that? How did they know there was something of value to them there? Because it was not. They make it clear it's not um, um, a rescue. That they're there for a reason, for something. Because when Ripley contacts Mother, that's clear. So I always wondered, how did they know? Hey, Frank Mariani's here. Good morning, Frank. Frank, go over to the YouTube page and subscribe. In fact, anybody here that's watching it on Facebook, I only put some of these up on Facebook because I'm trying to get everybody to port over to the YouTube page. So subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and hit the notifications button so you know when new shows are coming up and you'll get notified. It's going to be a lot easier because you're going to miss out on stuff if you're watching it on Facebook. Got your marching orders, Frank. Get over there. Yeah, they came. O'Banion decided on the name Alien because he looked at the script and he realized how many times he used the name. It had never been used before, and it's a noun and an adjective. He said, so it's perfect. It's like how could this not have been used before? Christopher Juliano is here. Hello, Christopher. Same for you, bud. Go over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel so you can watch it through YouTube and not Facebook because you're going to miss a lot of them. North Free says every character in this movie was great. Their fear was so real. Yeah, it's that claustrophobic terror, which I really, really like. That's what I based the Chenu on. Was I put everybody stuck in a house with a creature hunting them on the outside. Something completely different because it's an ice creature and blah blah blah. But I do like stories that ramp up the terror because you're stuck somewhere and you can't get away. So you have to deal with what's in front of you. JP Roca says that cutscene ending makes no sense without a queen. I think you're referring to the cocooning scene with Dallas. I guess. Well, no, because we know that those face hugger things um, come out of the eggs that are laid by a queen. But maybe every one of the aliens can. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe the aliens can implant something into because you have to grow a queen. A queen has to be born too. I don't know. Another question to be answered by Ridley Scott. I really like Yaphet Kotto in this movie. In fact, I like him in every movie I've ever seen. I was just talking on Facebook recently about one of my favorite blaxploitation films, Truck Turner, and Yaphet Kotto's in there, and that's a great movie. Steve Lowenthal back on Facebook again. Hello, sir. Will an alien be an Alien Alamo? Oh yeah, there's lots of aliens. Is it Ridley Scott Xenomorph? No. But it's loaded with aliens. And there's some nods to this movie in Alien Alamo, I might add as well. Yeah, Prater7 says, I saw the giant ship pilot, the space jockey, and I just thought, what the hell is this? Why haven't I ever seen this before? You know, what's interesting too is in Jack Kirby's Eternals, I think it's Eternals #1, uh, he has a space jockey pilot sitting in a harness, a seat type thing that's very, very similar to this. And knowing that Ridley Scott was a huge fan of heavy metal and maybe ostensibly comics, I have to wonder if he hadn't seen Kirby's designs and thought, "Wow, this is a very cool," and borrowed it the same way that they borrowed Doctor Doom for the look of Darth Vader. You have to wonder because it's even more similar than the Doom Vader connection. Thoughts on Alien versus Predator? It's okay. You know, it's sort of like a universal mashup. You know, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Okay, yeah, fun concept, halfway decent execution, but neither of them, yeah, neither Frankenstein meets the Wolfman or Alien versus Predator are as good as their source material, i.e., Alien and or Predator. Now, this is interesting. Thrim says when Ripley tries to shut off the self destruct and curse his mother, that countdown is in real time. That's cool. Christopher says it was disappointing that the space jockey was made humanoid in Ridley's further films, Prometheus and Covenant. Yeah, it might have been cooler if that wasn't a helmet and that because um, Dallas says something like it looks fossilized. Um, so the assumption was that this was a living being and not not its look wasn't a spacesuit and or a helmet that he was wearing. Naomi Rapis, thank you. Yeah, I'm just catching up here. Skull Nash did not like the design of the space jockeys in Prometheus. I have not done Silent Running with Bruce Dern yet. Ouch, 3 C-sections? Graham's wife may be tougher than him. I'm going to whisper this. She is. No, she's not. Bitch. Did you ever see that Key and Peele routine where the guys are talking all tough and about their wives, and then they're looking around and they're like, bitch. They don't want to get caught. Question is, Alien or Aliens, which is better? I honestly don't think I could pick. Well, they're two different movies. They're two different kinds of movies. Alien is a horror film in space. Aliens is a war picture in space. So, they're two different animals, but they're both really, really good. I love them both. They could have stopped right there, by the way. That would have been perfect bookends. We're introduced to the xenomorphs. We go after the xenomorphs, finish it up, done. But the third one, it's like if you've erased everything that we had to sit through and endure in the second one at the very beginning of the third one, then that sucks. It's like now when I watch the second one, I feel like, well, what am I watching this for? Because it all ends for naught. I hated that third one. Weren't they smoking at some point in this movie too? Hadn't thought about that, but it is funny. Yeah. John Hurt's character was smoking. I think other guys were smoking too, but yeah. The other thing that this doesn't really bother me so much because it's all about setting a feel and texturizing this this spaceship um, was when we see what is ostensibly a garage or where they're storing vehicles and stuff like that, and there's the hanging chains, uh, and all that water is dripping all over the place. Now, water is very heavy, and uh, it's at a premium when you're in space. You would think that they would, even if it's condensation, you'd think that they would have some type of device, some type of scrubbing device that would convert that into drinking water so that it's not just dripping all over metal and causing rust and God knows what, on their metal floors and everything else, But it makes it for a scary scene with that water dripping and the sound of the chains rattling and everything. But I always wondered about that. Veronica also complains earlier going into the derelict ship. I like griping. Yeah, I caught that line. Thought that was interesting. Hans Roger says Alien is the best of them all. Still. And Delaware comic dude is throwing some shade on me, saying I'm old. Well, old is better than dead. That's the way I look at it. Every day above the sod's a good one. I heard they knew every scene, but during the bursting scene, nobody expected it to be that violent. Yeah, they actually filmed that scene twice because there was a problem with the first burst. So they knew, it was really a rumor that they didn't know was going to happen. What they didn't know was that they used actual, parts of animal parts and things like that, so that when it burst, it was, you know, real organic material flying around. Um, and evidently, that's what freaked them out. There was real blood and real slime and all that. Um, I guess it really affected. I don't know how much of this is true, but because stories in Hollywood sometimes get blown up because they're good stories. But they said Yaphet Kotto had to go home, and he couldn't talk to his wife for a couple hours. And locked himself into a room because he was so upset by that scene. Sounds a little, you know, hyperbolic, but who knows? My favorite horror film of all time. First saw it on a double bill at the drive-in 1980 with The Empire Strikes Back as the first feature. I was much too young for Alien, but I loved it even then. Wow, that's a great double bill. How fun would that be to see those two together, huh? And Stat Zero is in the house. Glad you made it. Yeah, corporate whores even in the future. Ronald Sipple says he saw Alien when it came out. Never forgot it. Introduced me to H.R. Geiger or Giger. Still holds up as modern today. Yep, everything but the computers. Hillary Barta, good morning. Saw this in the theater with my best friend. See, somebody else as old as me. When the critter shows his teeth and skitters about after bursting from the chest, my pal was the only guy in the theater that started laughing. My kind of guy. Samuel Argo says, I don't think the company knew there was value there during Alien, but after the terraformers and aliens disappeared, they suspected the possibilities. Well, they would have known in Alien because Ash would have signaled them of what they have found, that they had found the xenomorph, and that probably is what caused them to do what they ended up doing, and telling Ash to do what he ended up doing. But why did the company wake up the Nostromo to go investigate it? Because I don't believe it was for altruistic reasons. And Samuel Argo, JP Roker reminds you to come to YouTube and become one of us. Yes, become a pod person like us and come to YouTube, and don't watch it on Facebook because not every show is on Facebook. Subscribe, it's free. Hit the like button and hit the reminder button. Phyllis Freep answers a question. It was standard instructions to stop when alien signals are detected. Then the robot's instructions were to preserve examples or samples. Well, okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that. Crease 1984, I was a bit too young to see it too. They wouldn't let me into theater. They only allowed me to see Star Wars and Close Encounters. Huge distribution delay here. Communism. I don't know where you live, but that would suck. Yes, there is a director's cut. And that's the one I was talking about that I saw, because it has a few of the deleted scenes are reinserted. It's definitely a good one. I like that director's cut. Oh, another question answered. A lone alien can become a queen, if I'm not mistaken. And Chris Juliano says originally the alien was supposed to be asexual and reproduce when there's only a single creature. Okay, well, that makes complete sense as to why they would have filmed that sequence in the first place with Dallas being incubating. And I guess Cameron brought in the whole queen issue. And Aether Prime says they evolve when one isn't present in hive. Also, the alien drones can cocoon people. This isn't the queen who does it, by the way. That makes sense. I mean, she'd be too big for that. So yeah. Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, in Aliens too, there's a lot of like drones like around the cocooned people. So that would make sense. My brother says, "Oh, for God's sake, I will not be quiet. I paid good American money for this." He's referring to my mom took him to see Alien, and she didn't know what she was in for either. And when the chest burster scene came, she was horrified and was not one to contain her thoughts when something bothered her. And so, she was saying out loud, "Oh, for God's sake!" It's somebody, I guess maybe in the row behind her said her to quiet down. She goes, "I will not be quiet. I paid good American money for this." And my brother at the time, let's see, 1979, he was what, 15, something like that. He's like this. Hmm, hmm. Billy Tucci did the bitch thing recently on a Professionals, and it cracked me up. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great skit. They had to keep getting away further, like they're even in space, and they got these helmets on. They're like, yeah. And then I said to her, bitch. Amen, Dr. Mask Retro Elixir. Gabriel El Taib knows where it's at. Many more will keep being pushed away by the mainstream nutters. Talking about Gabe, who was a colorist at DC, that, he declared he was Comicsgate. And he had a contract with DC, and he decided, he wanted to honor that contract until such time it was ended, which was only a couple issues I think he had, and then he was going to strike out on his own, So he did a stand-up thing, and once DC found out about that, about how he was associating with Comicsgate people, they canceled his contract and let him go. So much for freedom in this country. At least Lance Henriksen was in Aliens versus Predator. Oh yeah, I forgot he was in that. I like him. He's a good actor. I met him. I had lunch with him in a green room at Colorado Springs Comic Con or convention a couple of years ago. Really nice guy. Likes to smoke his cigarettes. He was telling me, he buys these, chemical-free cigarettes, I think on an Indian reservation. They have like a Indian head on the pack, and he was so proud of them. He just loves them. And I said, so they're like a cigar then? They're all natural material except for the paper? And yeah, he was going on about it. Loves his cigs. Like Ron Burgundy. Scotch, Scotch, Scotch. Loving Scotch. Scotchy, Scotchy, Scotch. Started rewatching these a few weeks ago with my dad. We got to the third movie, and I still haven't forced myself to finish it. I haven't seen it before, and apparently that was my limit. It's just ugly. It's just mean spirited, and the writers and the directors just shit on everything that came before it. So I'd stop with number two. Dennis Schmidt is here. Good morning, Dennis. Boy, the chat is busy this morning. Stat Zero says, I can bet scanners saw a big foreign looking ship and wanted to pillage and salvage it. Ash reported the facehugger once it was discovered, and the company decided it was more important than the crew. That makes sense. Just got a heads up for the definition of Comicsgate in Wikipedia. You won't like it. Yeah, I know what it says. Worlds run by some very sick people. Well, the people that write for Wikipedia, it could be anybody. Anybody can log in. So, Some SJW with a axe to grind probably wrote what it was. Dr. Mask has to exit us, so have a good day, sir. Ripley, whenever you say something, he says right. Right. It's a great scene. Oh, Kreese, 1984, lived in Poland. Okay. Hey, Graham, did you ever see the movie Shadow of the Vampire about the making of the silent film Nosferatu? That's the one with Klaus Kinski, right? When in fact he really is a vampire. Uh, yeah, I did see that. I didn't care for it. We're getting an honorable human coming to Comicsgate. Great. Hey, what about me? I'm an honorable human. Yeah, Gabe's a great guy. He's starting a YouTube channel, so go over there and subscribe to his too. But if you haven't subscribed to mine, do that first, then go over there. Guy Dorian is here. Good morning, Guy. Got you up early again, I see. With the changing ways of the Alien franchise and other monster movies, do you think that it's always best to have less is more with the monster on screen? It depends on the story you're telling. Um, you got to have some monster. There's no two ways about that. When you watch a film like Jacques Tourneur's Curse of the Demon, which I love that movie, but I love it because they added the monster to it. He didn't want to show the monster; he wanted it to be all in your mind. Um, and I love that they show the monster in that movie. You don't see it much, but when you see it, it's effective. I don't like when they try to be too artsy. Uh, Hail Comicsgate! Hail Pop Culture Avenger! Thank you. Well, this is interesting. Even David Fincher, who directed Alien 3, hates Alien 3. The studio essentially took over and told him what to do. That could explain why it's so bad. Oh, Hillary says no. Klaus Kinski was in the remake of Nosferatu. Well, who was in the other one? Because I'm pretty sure I saw that. Oh, okay, okay. Shadow of the Vampire was Willem Dafoe and John Malkovich. Klaus Kinski was in '70s remake. Okay, but it is about the making of Nosferatu, but the vampire is real with Willem Dafoe. Is that not correct? Okay. Anybody have an answer to that? Oh, now let's see. Now I can really say it. NRG Comics, thank you for the $10 super chat. That is a good cigar. Watched the Alien this past weekend, smoking a couple of Fuente short stories. Great movie. Ooh, Arturo Fuente short stories. Those are good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the Hemingways too. Those are excellent. And thank you, sir. Okay, thanks, Stat Zero. Appreciate that. Clearing that up for me. Yeah, I didn't care for that one myself. I didn't like the Klaus Kinski one either, the remake. uh, Prater is combining the two phrases. Son of a bitch, that's a good cigar. We're gonna get this right, my friends. We're gonna get this right. You see, this is the creative aspect of our group here. We're all in this together. Graham, watched a flick I haven't seen in years yesterday. The Ice Pirates with Robert Urich, Mary Crosby when she was hot, John Matusak. Enjoyable film. I don't think I've ever seen that. Stat Zero, thank you. That Kinski remake put me to sleep. Same with me. Oh, I was just totally bored by that movie. Guy liked Prometheus. It was okay. A lot of plot holes. I found the movie with Defoe to be incredibly boring. That was my remembrance of it too. I guess I misremember the two of them, but I remembered both of them being boring. So that much I did have right. Devil Flyer says to me to keep it simple. I first suggested the cigar line on October 5th. Use it. All right. Wow, this has been a busy show. We've been over an hour and 12 minutes on this today. Pretty cool. Yeah, I knew this was going to be a good one. Aether Prime says, in a horror movie, you should not show your monster till the end. Alien was a slasher sci-fi horror flick. Aliens was not a horror flick. It was an action military thriller. Yeah, I don't know that you have to show it at the end. But if you haven't, you need to. The xenomorph doesn't show up till 45 minutes into this movie too. And it's only on screen, I think, 18 minutes. Spirit Scar is here. Good morning. Andrew Taz is here. Good morning. So people, Devil Flyer has to go to the dentist today. Now that's horror. Yeah, nobody likes going to the dentist. The trick is to type enough intelligent stuff to keep Graham interested. LOL. Spirit Scar says, "What about Frankenstein? We see the monster pretty early and clearly in Frankenstein." Well, that is one of the great reveals of all horror films. It is Frankenstein. It is my all-time favorite, where he walks in backwards in shadow and then turns to the light, and we get to see his face for the first time. And it's a tour de force of not only acting, pantomime, but Jack Pierce's just incredible makeup effects that even after 80, 90 years, whatever it is, um, still hold up today. Just amazing. I love that movie. I love it because the monster is in it a lot. Bats Peterson says, let's not forget Dark Star as the alien seed, the work of Dan O'Banion. Yeah, Dan O'Banion and John Carpenter were school chums working on their movie thesis, and he said, I like this quote. We were either going to, because they had the opportunity to actually get it in theaters, which they did. And they said they were either going to make the greatest college film or the worst commercially produced film. And because they got it in theaters, they made one of the worst commercially produced films. But it was the germination of Alien. Scott Pearson, the alien design has got to be the singularly most terrifying Hollywood creation ever. I don't think you top need to hide it that much. Well, they had to hide it in the first one, in Alien, the one we're talking about, because it was a guy in a suit, and you shine too much light on that, and it becomes evident. But the way that they did do it made it terrifying because there was hardly anything for us to key in on. We, as humans, we read patterns, we read faces, we read silhouettes, and it's part of our nature to warn us about things that could be, dangerous to us as a species. And this creature, the Geiger design, when you look at his paintings, you feel like you need to take a shower after watching them. They're just so very disturbing. Like they're organic and yet industrial at the same time. They're really horrifying. Look, the color choices and everything. There's nothing warm and fuzzy about it. They're actually completely alien. And that's what made this design so incredible. That it was like nothing we'd ever seen or could even imagine. You had to be a sick weirdo to imagine this kind of stuff. And I think that's what what he was. Hey, I got a professional in here. Billy, this film scared the ever-living shit out of me when it came out. Terrifying, says Paul Lynn. This film scared the ever-living shit out of me when it came out. Terrifying. That's how I'm picturing you saying it, Billy. Thanks for popping in, bro. Okay, we can no longer be friends. That movie. Oh, there's very few movies. There's movies that I don't like, and then there's movies that make me angry. Godzilla versus Kong or Kong versus Godzilla made me angry. There's no forgiving that movie. It's like if you're playing T-ball and you strike out. The ball is right there on the tee. How the hell can you miss it? Well, they missed it. Big time. All right, my brothers and sisters, if there's any sisters in here. Tomorrow, let's take a look at what we got on tomorrow. The Boogans. Well, there's one from the 1980s. I'll bet you half of you have never seen. Don't know if you can watch that anywhere. Again, I'm sure you can rent it somewhere. But this is a cool little 1980s horror film that you really need to check out. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about that at our usual time, 8 a.m. As we're coming up here, I got a couple days where the times might have to change because, as some of you know, my daughter's getting married Saturday, and we have family coming in this week. Thursday, things are really going to ramp up. But because I do this in the mornings, it's not a big deal. But Friday morning shouldn't be a problem. Saturday and Sunday mornings could be a problem. Saturday we'll be at the hotel, so I might have to broadcast from there Saturday morning. Sunday morning, depending on how much celebrating we do on Saturday night, might be at a different time altogether. So just bear with me. We will get all of these in for sure. And as always, I always thank everybody for tuning in and for participating in the chat and for sending super chats my way. Those are good cigars, and I plan on smoking some of them Saturday night at the wedding. So until tomorrow, my friends, we shall see you then, and we'll talk about the Boogans. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.